A very good morning to all. I, Sujit Gulhane, Assistant Professor, Center for Textile Functions, welcome you for the technical interaction about the application of rubber in textile industry. We are honored to have with us respected Arup Rakshit sir, Associate Dean, Center for Textile Functions, respected Vijay Shivankar sir, HOD, Textile Department, the eminent speakers for the technical discussion, Mr. Piyush Chandarana, Chief Operating Officer, RSWM Limited, NITS Mordi, Rajasthan, Mr. Yogen Lathia, Technical Director of MS Lathia Rubber Manufacturing Private Limited, Mumbai.
Then we had a much closer relationship with Lathia Industries. And sir, I mean, you had a lot of visits and interaction with VJTI's textile department. So I can find.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yogen, sir. Sir,
I know me and everyone very well in Kashmir. So I always get what work you are doing and updates from both of them regularly.
Absolutely. Lovely to see you once again. We had a lot of interactions over the last few decades. Sir, and this approach and your interest shown or exhibited for the CTF students from Shedpur is definitely a feather to the cap of our placement services, I should say, services from CTF. And I would like to welcome you once again to address our students. And secondly, I am equally grateful to Piyush ji because we had a wonderful interaction through one of our management development programs last month. And he is so proactive about all the students' welfare, the research activities, gaining or getting new knowledges in the various fields. All these things was so amazing that we really could create a wonderful relationship with Piyush. Sir, we want to continue it ahead. And this is support, your support and association with CTF has brought in to connect with Lathia sir once again, as well as I would like to have more such, we would like to appreciate that more such contacts are being done and the relationship and these kind of meetings could have been held in the current future. So thank you very much. I welcome Lathia sir once again. Now I gave you to once again the nice association with Teli sir, the department, Khare sir, and all those people from the VJTI. We fondly remember these services. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू अरूप जी. मतलब जब कोई किसी के पास हम जाते हैं, कुछ ग्रुप में जाते हैं, तो ऐसा होता है कि हमको अपना इंट्रोडक्शन देना पड़ता है कि मैं ये हूँ. लेकिन योगेन जी को वहां जाके लोग जानना चाहते हैं कि योगेन जी क्या है, उस टाइप की शख्सियत है वो. सो बट स्टिल I request Yogen ji to start with his experience, his introductions, his company progress and the rubber industry के बारे में. मतलब textile में where rubber we are using and what type of quality we have to use it, and that you have to tell us, and also what the quality parameter we have to check in the rubber. And अगर एक सीधा बताऊं तो लाठिया के सामने अगर कोई स्टूडेंट को एक कंपनी बनानी है तो उसके लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा वो भी आपको हमको बताना पड़ेगा. एंड इज देयर एनी चांस इन लाठिया आल्सो दैट स्टूडेंट गेट अ चांस इन लाठिया अगर जॉब का या ऐसा कुछ प्लेसमेंट का? तो ये मैं मिस्टर योगेन लाठिया जी को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा वो स्टार्ट करें, बिकॉज एकदम स्टिपुलेटेड टाइम है. So we want to know more and more from Mr. Yogen Lathia on that part.
Sujit, Anupji, Piyush bhai, Dr. Vijay, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to the students on the use of rubber in the textile industry. My company is almost 70 years old. It was started in 1953 by my father. And today it is being managed by my three brothers are managing. I am the elder. Sanjeev is the middle brother and Ashit. So we are managing this. We have about 7 plants scattered in the textile centers: Bombay, Surat, Ahmedabad, Delhi. And we basically supply a product called rubber rolls, which are used in the textile processing sector. It's been a long journey, and started by my father. I have joined my business in 1977 after graduating in rubber technology from London. What I yesterday told Sujit and Piyush, that most of the time when I joined the industry, people knew very little about what rubber is and what it is, except that we all use rubber. And the commonest name is, rubber as a unique property, which is known as to rub off the pencil writing. So that was the rubber. So I said, let me just give you a brief of what rubber is and how move forward to rubber products, and then answer your question answers, particularly for where the rubber rolls are used in the textile industry or rubber products are used in the textile industry. Sujit, can I get a share there so I can put some processing, otherwise they will not be able to understand. Just can I get a share screen? That's my father, and that is the foundation on which he group value, how he has grown over the years, and more efficiently, he always called himself a rubber technician and never a industrialist. Next. This is where three brothers, as I said. Next. Go to the next. But can you put the next one? Uske baad, this is the journey over last 70 years where we have grown slowly. We are a conservative family, and we have grown steadily as and when the funds were raised internally. Next. Sir, can you put on that is the overview of the group? And next one, Arupji. This is it. See, rubber, as you know, was or gum, as it was originally called, was discovered by Christopher Columbus during one of many visits to America. He found that these Americans were playing with a ball. They were getting liquid from a certain tree, and after drying, they had very good water repellency, and this was used for making waterproof fabric and making small balls. But this was a primary rubber. One Mr. John Prisky found that this polymer had also a unique property where he could rub off the eraser, and that's how the name rubber came to be known as what it is today. Basically, it is rubber is grown in the trees, and which is known as the latex. It is grown primarily in the parts of Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil, Vietnam, and Thailand today, and even in India, in Kerala. And this rubber, till about 1850, it was found that rubber had a very good property, but in the summer months, it became very sticky and it was not usable. So basically, then one Mr. John Hancock and Mr. John Boyd Dunlop in America accidentally discovered that when this material is heated with sulfur, it doesn't become sticky in summer. And this was a beginning of the use of rubber industry. What was basically rubber is a polymer chain. It's a polymer like polyester or nylon or something, in which the polymer chains need to be cross-linked and give you what is known as a rubber product which is usable. Today, that process where it is converted from a thermoplastic to a thermoset is known as vulcanization. This is a small chart which you will see natural rubber, because primarily the world uses natural rubber. Subsequently, at the end, during the Second World War, what happened was Germans took over the Brazil part of it, and the Japanese took over Malaysian part of it. So rubber tires which were used in the defense for tanks and cars was not available, natural rubber basically. So all the governments started a crash program in research to make a product which was similar to natural rubber. And that is how the synthetic rubber industry was born. More or less America and Germany developed the synthetic rubber to replace the natural rubber. And this was the beginning and the birth of the synthetic rubber industry. Today there are 12, as I progress in my talk, there are 12 and 13 different types of rubbers which are available, which are specific for a specific use or for temperature or for chemical resistance. It's like, earlier there was cotton fiber, and then you have now polyester, nylon, you have aramid, you have urethane fiber. So similar way rubber industry has developed, and then lot of other products. There are over 1 lakh rubber products used in various industries, and the prime example of rubber is rubber tires. The automobile industry today also consumes 65 to 70% of the rubber parts used and produced. I don't know what will happen, but tires are still there. So rubber industry is going to be there for a long time, even with the electrical vehicles coming in. So this is and rubber is primarily used for this elasticity and resilience. Wherever you want to introduce a flexibility in this system, a rubber roll is used. Next slide. Today, as I said, there are various types of synthetic rubbers. Natural rubber is the first one. SBR was the one which was produced to replace natural rubber. And then you have polybutadiene, which is primarily used in tire industry. Nitrile rubber, it is used for oil resistance and chemical resistance. Polychloroprene is primarily used as a fire retardant rubber and used in cables. Chlorosulfonate polyethylene also is used in cables and has excellent chemical resistance. EPDM has replaced, basically it is ethylene and propylene combined together, and it is primarily used for its oxidation resistance. It is used in sheets, canal sheets, all the automobile gaskets, everything. Butyl rubber is basically used in the tire inner tubes. It is very resistant to the permeation of air. So all the tire inner tubes are basically butyl. In the old days, if you know, we used to buy cycles and then you find that the air has gone. In those days, those tubes were made from natural rubber and the air would permeate out, causing this problem. So nowadays, butyl rubber has replaced. Silicone rubber, basically as the name suggests, it is used in for temperature resistance and release properties. Polyurethane is something like your lycra, same thing. It is a very elastic, very hard material. Lycra is the other end of polyurethane rubber. The middle part where the backbone is softer is known as polyurethane rubber. And the other end is polyurethane for plastics. Fluoroelastomer is a rubber equivalent of Teflon. And it is used primarily, it can withstand temperature of about 250 degrees Celsius. And so if you have high temperature, it is basically used in oil gasket seals when the temperature is very, very high. Next slide. None of these rubbers, basically it's a molecule. And as I said, all these rubbers are thermoplastic and they need to be converted into thermosets. Number one, natural rubber on its own is very strong, but the other rubbers which I told you are not very strong. So they need to be what we call is compounded. In the rubber compounding, we use following material. We use reinforcing materials like carbon black, then semi-reinforcing material, chipping agents like clay, varieties which are basically used to bring down the cost. Then oil, anti-degradants are antioxidants for longer life of the rubber product. Accelerator and curatives are basically to accelerate the chemical reaction so that you can produce faster. And curatives are the one which is the material which is used to cross-link the polymer chain. And the classic, it is like a chapati. A chapati, so whether you want to make a chapati or a puri or paratha, you have to compound in our house the gaun ka atta. So same manner, rubber is compounded with all these ingredients, oils and things to give you a product, whatever you desire, and the properties, whatever you desire. So this is the rubber compounding part. Now, after this, it needs to be mixed. Most commonly used machine is what I call rubber process mixing mill. It is basically two rolls and which are driven at a different speed, and the powder is pushed into the rubber. And this takes about 45 minutes. This is the most commonly used machine, but nowadays you get, this is what we call open mill mixing. Nowadays you have bigger mixers which can, this generally produces a batch weight from 10 kilos to 60 kilos. But nowadays you have products, what we call an internal mixer, which produces about 500 kilos of compound in 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Once the rubber is mixed, then it will go for testing. And then you will use various, because it is still a thermoplastics. So you can process this to make whatever you want. The first processing is calendering, where the rubber is laid in a sheet form. And then this sheet is used to make hand-built products or rubber sheeting or whatever. You can also extrude the rubber product to give you the strips. The strips are like window strips in the car seals, scooters. So that is an extrusion where you have a screw and the rubber is pushed out into the from a die. If anyone has any question, please ask me, because I'm just going, this is only just to give you an idea of what rubber is, how it is processed, and how the products are made. The molding is the most common type of product, because most of the products which you use today are molded. And in a molded, you have a heated platen in which there is a mold of the desired shape of the part you want to make. And the rubber is put inside this mold and cured. Curing is very, very important, because this is the process by which they cross-link the polymer chain. And the rubber is converted permanently from a thermoplastic material to a thermoset material. It cannot be used. If the rejection is there, then the product has to be thrown out. And the most common example is the tires. The used tires are basically taken and depolymerized, and you get a reclaimed rubber. So it is like an atta, where either you eat the chapati or throw the chapati. You cannot do anything. So rubber products, once it is vulcanized, cannot be used again. Before some of the testing which we do, as Piyush Bhai said, we do testing on what we call an unvulcanized rubber, and once the rubber is vulcanized. The testing on the unvulcanized rubber is basically to do with the processing of the rubber, and Muli viscometry is a machine where we measure the viscosity of the polymer compound. Oscillating viscometer is a machine where we will measure the curing characteristics of the rubber. Plasticity, again, as the name implies, how plastic is rubber, but now that has been replaced by Muli viscosity. And specific gravity is as usual, any specific gravity, because the rubber products are basically, you require weight to calculate the cost. So these are the machines: viscometer, oscillatometer, plasticity. Okay. On the vulcanized specific gravity, as you know, is the process where we do take a small rubber and use the Archimedes principle and measure the weight in water and weight in air and then calculate the specific gravity. The most common property which we use and by which most of the products are sold is hardness. Hardness of the rubber product. Basically, it's a small machine with a small indentator. It measures the number. There is a spring inside. Basically, it gives you the elasticity measurement of the rubber. Means you have the rubber can be as soft as a sponge and as hard as a metal. For the hard part, we use a different scale which is known as SHOD. The other properties which we measure in the vulcanized rubber is, as all of you do, tensile resistance, tear resistance, abrasion. Flex is the another property we will always measure because rubber is most of times also flex. Like when you have a car tire, the car tire every revolution will come in contact. So that is what is known as flexing, where it is in strain without strain, in strain without strain. Compression set is the main property, how much of the rubber remains, because theoretically it should not remain, but always there is a theory and there is a practical. So what is the residual compression if the rubber product is left in a particular load or a particular strain? How much does it retain? Resiliency is nothing but the elasticity of the rubber. How much of it's like a cricket ball. If you have a ball, when you throw the ball from a particular height, it should come up. How much does it come up is known as the resiliency. Basically, it is known as the elasticity. Oil, solvent, chemical resistance are basically to determine whether what rubber will be suitable in the end use. Okay, there are basic guidelines, like if you have oil resistance, you use nitride, but then there are so many chemicals used in so many processes that people prefer. So what we do is we take the oil, solvent, or the chemicals in which the rubber is going to come in contact, measure, dip it in it for whatever temperature and time, and then measure the hardness and the physical properties to see what is happening. Last but not least is the aging property, because everyone wants a product to know how long will it last. So what is done is rubber samples are taken and are aged in an oxygen oven or a normal oven for 24 hours, 42 hours, 72 hours at a temperature of 70 to 180 or 200, depending on what is the end use of the rubber product. But the most commonly one is 70 degrees at 24 hours or 72 hours at 70 degrees. And again, tear, flex, compression, and then this is again as I explained to you. Now, what I will do is, as I said, rubber rolls, we go to the other side. Next one. Let's go to the next one. Rubber roll kind of. Rubber, basically, why rubber is used? Rubber is used in any industry where you want to introduce the flexibility in the system, like engine mounts, or you want to use elasticity of rubber rolls. Even breech bearing pads are example of introducing flexibility in the system. Rubber rolls are basically used in various industries, textile industry being the largest, but it is also used in paper manufacturing, steel manufacturing, all the polyester film and PP film which we are using in packaging material today. They require rubber rolls because they use the elasticity of the rubber surface. It is used for lamination, lots of uses. In textile industry, rubber rolls are used in all the three processes: spinning, weaving, processing. In spinning, when the yarn is drawn, on the spinning machine, you have cords and aprons which will draw the cotton fiber and make the yarn. They are small in number, the sizes are very small, but they are huge. Every spinning machine will have hundreds of cords and aprons in each machine. Weaving, as all of you are textile graduates knows, weaving is a very difficult process. So in order to make the yarn suitable for weaving, you apply size to the rubber, to the yarn. And when the size is applied, it is what the machine is known as the sizing machine. And this basically uses a rubber roll to squeeze out or to impregnate the yarn with the sizing material. Basically, it's only used on the sizing machine. And once the beams are made, then you use the beams for weaving, whether it is air jet, whether it is water jet, whatever. Most important and the largest use in the textile industry is in the processing of the rubber, of the material, fabric, particularly cotton processing. Cotton processing uses a huge amount of large number of rollers. The prime reason is that cotton fabric, number one, is cotton grown or is a natural product like natural rubber, and the color and the behavior and the characteristics of the cotton depends, as all of you know, on the area, the soil, the temperature conditions. And if you want to make a uniform product, the first thing everyone does is remove the size. So what we call a desizing machine processing. Then cotton fabric again uses, you have to dye the fabric. So in order to make dyeing of the fabric, and because the cotton base color is different, they will use a process which is called bleaching, where the cotton fabric will become white. In the old days, people used to use sodium hypochlorite. Nowadays, that is banned by the government. So people use peroxide bleaching and make the fabric white. Then you have mercerizer. Most of you know mercerizer is a process where the cotton becomes ready to absorb colors and the fastness of the colors. All of you know better all these processes for effect on the fabric, but these are machines where they use a lot of rubber rolls, because you dip the material in a tank, get out, you dip and you squeeze out. Then you have a continuous dyeing machine, continuous desizing machine, you have a singeing machine. In a singeing machine, you burn off these fibers which are at the back of the fabric with a controlled flame. So basically, cotton processing uses a hell of a lot number of rollers. The last process which all of you use, as a textile, is stenter, where you heat set the fabric, you color the fabric, you pad the fabric. And these stenters also use a rubber roll to pad.
I know that in textile and particularly in cotton, there is a huge use of the rubber. Please also explain, if it is already you have covered, I would say if the rubber quality is poor, what will be the effect on the fabric? That also please explain in between.
Yeah, so what basically will
because happen? You know, I only measure the hardness, sore hardness A. So when I'm in a textile, you know, I am only knowing that, okay, we have to measure the hardness.
Not only textile, that is the most common barometer. And I'll tell you, when I joined in 1977, as I said earlier in my talk, that automobile was the prime user of rubber. Nearly 65% of the rubber products are used in the automobile industry. And at that, being young, I was saying, let me go and supply to Hindustan Automobiles and Premier Auto Fiat, which is Fiat factory was not even 2 kilometers away from my factory. And when I went there, the only criteria was hardness and the cost. Only two criteria. There was no other criteria. And because that was the only thing. Over the years, then people automobile learned very hard way that the cost of replacing an engine boost or an engine mount, if it fails, is very, very large. So then they started introducing, when Maruti came in today, almost all the automobile companies have their own standards for every product. And you have to not only meet the specification, but you have to also, cost, but also meet the specification laid down by them. Because in fact, today, as I was talking, that in the automobile industry, some of the products they find, because the labor is very high in Europe or something, so they would, in the high-end cars, they would prefer to use, not to use nitride or something, they will just use white tone or silicone, because then it is fit and forget. Okay, because the oil, what is the cost of oil seal in the whole car? But if that oil seal has to be changed, the labor involved is far too much. So that is why people are specific. Unfortunately, in the textile industry, there are no specifications laid out. There are a number of machinery manufacturers, and each one has a different criteria. Number one. Number two, also each of the mills are using different chemicals.
Very true.
From various suppliers. So there is no standardization. But basically, I can tell you, hardness is one part, but the accuracy of the particularly rubber rolls and cots and aprons are very important, because in cots and aprons, as you know, your yarn will not draw properly. It will affect the quality of the yarn. Then, if you see in sizing, you have sticky ends.
In between, I'm sorry. What is the hardness we have to maintain in the cots and apron? Because again, there is a.
It again depends on what is the yarn and what you are trying, what is the friction ratio. But normally it is around 75 to 85 in that range. But the range is very tight. 82, 83. In our rubber, it is plus minus 5. But in a cotton apron, because that can make a hell of a lot of difference. So they are within 1 degree or 2 degrees you will get that. But it is very easy to maintain also, because cot is this size. Right? Rubber roll you have 3,400 long. 100 tight. So rubber roll. As I was saying, I'll give an example. I have not made the mill. Once a new bleaching range was given to a mill in Mumbai, and then one fine day there was a complaint from the OEM that machine is not working. All the rolls have failed. When it failed, it is impossible that all the rolls can have some same defect across all the machines. That machine had 30 or 40 rolls and all of them would play. When I went there, I found that some chemical guy had come and he introduced a chemical which said you don't require separate deciding, you don't require separate mercerizing, one-stop solution. Now that chemical is trichloroethylene. Now trichloroethylene, no rubber is resistant. So this is why for the machines it is very, very difficult. But yes, if the hardness is not proper and if the quality of the rubber is not proper, you will not get uniform dyeing, you will not get uniform mercerizing or uniform bleaching. And as you know, bleaching and mercerizing also affects your dye subsequently. If the fabric is not mercerized, your color impregnation will change. So the criticality is not only the hardness but the performance. And the rubber roll basically consists of a metal part and a rubber covering. So both have to be in sync with one another.
Yes.
And basically, cotton textile processing uses a huge amount of rubber rolls, synthetic also and blended also. But the criticality in the textile industry is spinning, then weaving, and cotton processing. Synthetic processing also using. And the last process what we use is the stenter. So in this stenter, there are rubber rolls which are used depending the quality what you want, whether you want to pad, whether you want to remove the water, you know, because depending synthetics have a fabric has a different behavior, the cotton textile has a different behavior. So there are various combinations, and as I said, these are the machines where you use bleaching, soaping, mercerizing, padding, carbonizing. I don't think so nowadays is allowed, but it used to be there where all of cotton was burned and synthetic fabric yarn would remain. And but I think now that you used to use 70% sulfuric acid to burn out the cotton fibers. Now these are various covering based on what processing, what chemicals are you going to use, what life you are looking at, and what is the temperature. So these are the covering which we normally do for the textile processing machine. This is again the same thing, and the last one is for the textile side. This is the sizing covering, because basically again sizing covering is a continuous application. Start boiling out 90 degrees centigrade. There's a starch kitchen, or nowadays I understand that there are ready to use starches available which are just dissolved in hot water and start using. But these are the coverings which are used in the textile sizing. There is one covering which I just want to wear is size rock. In the good old days, the rolls were made of steel and a rubber roll used to be used. But somewhere in the mid 80s, 90s, there was an issue of what you call hairiness in the yarn. So in order to reduce the hairiness of the yarn, instead of the steel was replaced by this hard rubber roll, so that the hairiness is reduced. Now, whether it does or not, all of you are expert and not me. But this is the major change in the sizing industry which has happened over the years. One more product. There is a question by Piyush Bhai that what about innovation? Yes, innovation is continuous and is always for a better long life of the rubber products, better use. And nowadays everyone is energy conscious, so they want water to be removed as much as possible from the fabric. So it is a continuous process. And one thing I have not mentioned here is the rubber blankets. You see, your cotton fabrics undergo a process which is known as sulfurizing or shrinking of the fabric. When you do the weaving, there is a difference between the warp and the weft, and you have to shrink the fabric. In the old days, it used to be called sulfurizing. Today, that method is not there, but it is known as a shrinking machine. So the shrinking basically is because of the gap between the warp weft during the weaving. And there is a machine called shrinking machine where it uses the elasticity of the rubber to bring back the yarns in the normal position. If the yarn doesn't have a shrinkage, rubber blanket will not give a shrinkage. But if the yarn has a shrinkage, it will give. And the shrinkage varies, as I understand, and I have learned from all of you only, is from 0% in synthetics to up to 18 to 20% on denim and bed sheets. This is the wide range of shrinkage which is available and which uses a rubber blanket, which we also manufacture. Now that covers my talk. I had a couple of questions from Piyush Bhai and Sujit. Number one, regarding employment. Yes, the rubber industry is a growing industry, and for your information, right from 1947, come what may, the rubber industry has been growing at a compounded growth rate of CAGR of 8%. Right? When we started in 47, the consumption was 30,000 tons. Today we are around 12 million tons. So whether come what may, the rubber industry has a great future. As long as
it is a more than textile, right? More than textile. I think textile is a 5%.
Size-wise, we are about 100,000, 80,000 crores. 90, if you consider the tire industry also, it's around 100,000 crores today. But majority are small and out of there are 3,000 to 4,000 rubber industries all over the country, out of which there are only 500 companies which consume more than 20 tons of rubber a month, which is nothing. So 3,500 are small manufacturers supplying moldings, supplying extrusions to industry, engineering, textile, everyone. I mean, it's a wide range of use. So yes, you can definitely come in. Only factor which is very important, you must remember, is two things. Rubber industry is an energy intensive industry because the processing which I showed you, particularly you have a mixing, then you have a very high energy requirement. If you buy ready-made compounds which are available now, then it is not energy, but it is definitely and also capital intensive. So these two things is bearing, but still, in spite of that, rubber industry has grown, as I told you, at 8%, 9% over the years. So it is there is a huge employment possibility also. That answers, I think, Sujit, and your question. You had one more question was on the parameters. One second. Quality, as I said, quality, most of the time, quality parameters are checked in the hardness because that is the only physical measurement you can do on your side. But along with this, right, whenever the reputation of the manufacturer and other manufacturers are very important. As I give you an example of today, when I joined Textile Industry 77, 10,000, 20,000 liter batches were there. Today you have machines, continuous machines producing up to 100,000 liters a day. And any shut there, the management is going to scream on you and naturally you will scream on your supplier. So the quality and the consistency and the reputation of the manufacturer is equally important because the cost of a failure on a rubber roll, on a continuous dyeing, or a continuous bleaching machine is very high. As these machines are costly, you will, and second, you will lose out on the production. It will take maybe one shift to change the roll. So that today, I mean, in the old days, if you remember, today any failure is taken very critically by any user, whether it is a process house or whether it is a mill. It's very, very critical. Go ahead.
Great. Yogen, one more question.
Yeah.
I just like you said, we are measuring the sore hardness. Can you also explain in case of deep roll, apart from the sore hardness, what other things we have to check? I think I know, but at least you can explain better way.
No. I'll tell you. A rubber roll's performance basically depends on what rubber basically consists of a steel and rubber covering. So it's like a mountain. I mean, building. If you want to make a 40-story building, the foundations has to be strong. In case of the rubber roll, the foundation is the metal roll and not the rubber covering. Rubber covering hardness, yes, will determine the performance. But more importantly, the performance is dependent on how good or how bad these metal shells are. In textile industry, basically you have number of users. You have guide rolls where there is no function but just to guide the fabric and hold the fabric. Then you have intermediate rolls like a nip roll or where there is not very roll. And then you have a very high pressure rolls where you want to squeeze out water or dyes, whichever you have applied. So those rolls have to be designed according to end use application. And now our difficulty is that most of the people do not know what the shell is. So they buy a machine, so they don't know what the shells are. Shell is equally important. And secondly, in case of, you must realize that a rubber metal shell is nothing but a beam. And whenever you apply very high load on the beam will sag. It's like you have a 10-meter long beam, just beam. And if you measure with a microscope, you will find that the center of the beam will always sag because of gravity. And in case of rubber, so rubber roll is nothing but a beam. So it will sag, and that has to be compensated in the rubber by what we call the crowning on the rubber roll.
Okay.
So this is the key. And it has to have, like we grind the rolls with an accuracy of 0.04 millimeters. All rolls are ground. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Yogenji, how to measure that 0.4?
That you have to, either you have to have a machine where you can measure dial gauge, put the roll, mount the roll on a dial gauge, and then check with the reference to the bearing where you're going to mount, how is the runout. And that is the only way by measuring. And if the taper, there are two measurements. One is when the roll is rotating, what we call is basically runout. So that has to be measured on mounting. If you want to measure the diameter from one end to another, you can use the micrometer and measure it also. Check. I think job profile for textile gauges, I'll tell you one thing, there's a big use in textile is one of the biggest reinforcement material in rubber. And there are aramids, nylon, polyester fabrics used in the rubber industry and particularly tire industry goes in a huge amount. I mean, tire consists of almost 30 to 40% by weight of fabric, whether it is nylon or polyester. But these are basically treated with either vinyl pyridine or resorcinol formaldehyde resin to bond to the rubber. And so there is a great opportunity for in the tire industry. They look for textile graduates to check the fabric, how the fabric is behaving, how it is bonding to the rubber. Basically, they require a basic knowledge of what nylon fiber is, what are your adhesion characteristics, and because they have only one end use as a reinforcement material. It is not a fashion material there. So they have and there are people at Textile Technologies being used. All tire companies have, all hose companies, all belting companies, because synthetic and V-belts. These are the four prime products that textiles are used. In V-belts, basically, cords are used. In belting, fabric. In hose, fabric and cords. And in tire, fabrics. Very clear. There is another. Yeah, see, MBA basically is an. I sometimes, I learned, like I was a rubber technician and I did not know anything on the administration part, and I learned on screen with my father, with the education, because besides being a good technician of rubber or textile or any, you have to learn, you have to get work done from people. So HR, dealing the soft skills which we call dealing with people, dealing with law, factory act, all the other things also need to be learned. Unfortunately, in India, none of our courses have in their curriculum a soft skill of what are the other parts which are required. And I was on RSDC, Rubber Skill Development Council, for first 5-6 years. And we ensured that in their curriculum there are soft skills which are not taught, because dealing with human being is the most important thing. Team building is another important thing, and then all the other characteristics. So MBA basically helps you to learn all these skills on job rather than learning the hard way.
Yeah, I mean to say MBA is also required in a rubber industry because of
everywhere. Basically, usually it's a soft part of the technology. Skill you have.
Yes.
Human relations is the most important. Dealing with law, dealing with administration, hierarchy. I have a lot of students coming in. What is my designation? Now, in the old days, I'm sure you never asked or I never asked what that designation was. But today they are assistant manager, vice president. These are skills which have come over the years. So you require such knowledge also.
Yeah, very good, very good. Yogenji, just one more question I want to ask is, who is your competitor?
There are 120 roll manufacturers in the country. Okay. 120, but they don't have the breadth and length of the experience and the equipment which we have and which gives the accuracy. Even today, Yogen Lathia goes out, maybe he will not be as successful because it is the man, machine, and Both are required also. It's not only Yogen Lathia, it's a team, it's the machines, it's equipment, everything. There are 120 roll manufacturers.
Okay, great. Yogenji, one more question is, are you also recruiting a textile graduate or?
Yes, I have just started to find out because I used to go, whatever I spoke in my lecture, I have learned the hard way because I used to go and attend complaints. And I joined because my father, I was young. So I had taken up on me that all complaints will be attended by me. So all what I talked to you about was learned when there is a problem in the rubber roll. You ask the technicians, what is the problem, what is the function. See, one answer is you have specified the hardness and we have given you that. Second answer is what is the function of the rubber roll in that equipment, and then solving the problem. Either you are interested in, because rubber roll is performing certain duties or performance on that application. So that you need to know. So today we are hiring textile technicians to go to the sizing industry, to explain to the bleaching industry that look, these are the effects. Yes, definitely.
Great. I hope you will also give a chance to these university students also.
Definitely, if someone is interested in, basically, we do not have, in our industry, we do not have anything in the production side of it. But yes, in the marketing side, we can definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any, if you can give some good message to our listener, it will be.
Yeah, my message was, I will share on this screen. My company, basically, as I said, my father always treated himself as a technician and never a businessman. And today, whatever we are, he has followed. He was a technician. He would go to the mills. You have met my father, Piyush, right? He used to go to the technicians, what you want. And in those days, the imports were not allowed. So they would tell him, Mr. Lathia, develop this, Mr. Lathia, and that is how we have grown. So it is the principle of hard work, honesty, integrity, and satisfaction which has helped. This is one part. Second is blessings of God, and elders are always. And my father always believed that we have to give back to the country, industry in which we are running, society and family, something back. Because if everyone takes, then no country or society or industry can work. So my father always spent some amount of later part, lot of time doing giving back to the. That is why all of us, I was the president of Industry Association, Rotary, that we must do our bit for the society in our country.
Great, Yogenji, I'm really, in fact, I know you very well since last 20 years. But when you joined with us and you have shared a lot of knowledge, it's really a good thing for me also and all the students also. And in fact, to be very honest, whenever I am facing any issue about rubber roll or blanket, I always connected with you or your team that I need your solution, and I got a solution. This is really thank you very much for this type of sessions. Yeah.
I must thank you, and I'll give my email ID here. Anyone has any question, no problem whatsoever. Anytime you can talk to me on rubber, difficulties, whatever, so that I can. I'll be surprised. A lot of times people tell me what you say. Is this Byton? Is this silicon? We are having this problem. It comes to me for that only. So don't worry. For you, so I have to do that. So I thank all of you, Arunji and Sujit, you for giving me this opportunity, and all the students. Best of luck. Believe in yourself. And sometimes I am wondering that I was born 25 years earlier. With what future I see today in the industry all over, in the textile. Just one moment, in the textile industry when I joined, someone would ask me, I didn't know where textile mills are. These mills were huge, giant. So then I came to know where there is a boiler, chief engineer would be sitting there. And where there is a standard, processing manager would sit there. From that time to today's time, there is a sea of change in the textiles industry. You have a great opportunity. I think the government of India has also put textile industry as one of the key industry in PLI scheme, Atmanirbhar scheme. And I think India has a great future. Next 25 years are going to be huge.
Yes.
Best of luck to all of you.
Yeah, textile, I think 35% increase of export.
Yes.
I think last 2 days back there was a news. So yes, very good chance in a textile. Yeah, Sujit, now it is over to you.
Yes, sir. Sir, I request our respected Associate Dean, Dr. Arup Rakshit, sir, to share his views on today's technical discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Yogen, if you can just remove your slide.
Slide button.
Sharing. Yeah, this is better. Yeah. Okay. At the outset, first, I would like to thank both of you, Piyush ji, for taking this initiative to connect CTF and Lathia Industries together. Number one. Number two, Yogen ji, I have been closely associated with Sanjeev sir, Sanjeev Lathia ji, because, first thing is that it's a lovely presentation from your side, and both of you speak almost in the same tonal quality and modulations. I mean, it's so lovely to listen to you once again. I was patiently hearing whatever you were saying. Third, it honestly reminds me my school days, rather college days, when I was doing my MS or MTech in IIT Delhi. Our teachers used to teach about how the tire function. Okay, why you run the car for 500 kilometers, stop it, and then next morning you don't find the tire is flat at that location. Meaning thereby the lessons of vulcanization, how the cross-linking of the rubber polymer chains are done so that the tire remains intact at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day. Yes. So lovely, sir. The classroom teaching also was very enthralling where you had been presenting. Fourth point. This is regarding the career. I mean, it has this particular interaction, this particular presentation and the meeting has an offshoot also for the job opportunities of the textile graduates. My experience is maybe around 10 years before, when the students joined Lathia Industries, couple of B.Tech, I think there are 3 students in a single go was hired by your company. And, of which 2 stayed back and the other left quite early. When I interacted with those people, it appears or it transpires that, sir, where would we go after doing the job for 2 years or 3 years? What is our career prospect next to it? During your presentation, you have given a wonderful, picture that how you can shift from one place to the other. And that was my question lies with that. If he is an MBA in marketing, then the scope, being a textile graduate, the entire textile value chain can be covered, because honestly speaking, if we look at right from spinning to the entire textile value chain, there are some kind of traceability of rubber products and rubber components in the process. And your company contributes to those locations as well. So the student should be very optimistic about the job prospects, career prospects. He can develop, as you rightly said, the soft skills to understand that if I am handling the textile rubber components, I will be able to handle similar in the paint industry, similar in the pharma industry or any other locations. So that should be the acceptance of the students. I would like to, in this segment, I'd like to address to all the students, those who are listening. Around 20 students are there in the chat box. So there is a wonderful opportunity to shift and to grow with the same companies. Getting back to the same, 2 students, those who stayed back with industry, I made them after 6 years and they had been associated with Lathia Industries. So my dear students, those who are in degree or diploma, whoever is listening, 100% that this industry and the components has many opportunities to grow, provided you remain, as it has been stated in the last slide, your hard work, honesty, integrity, and a focus that how you are going to develop in your career with the development of soft skills. Thank you very much once again, sir, to all of you. These are the comments I want to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Vijay Shivankar, sir, to share his views.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you, both of you, for such a wonderful, informative session for our student as well as for us also. Actually, I have one question or request also for our final year students, how to reach this Lathia group for placement, because we have a B.Tech Textile Technology program here. and mostly we are actually providing the knowledge about the textile technology. And this rubber industry actually playing a very vital role as far as textile products are concerned. So how to actually reach for placement for your company?
My company, I am already giving you my email ID. What I would also request is that is what is known as a Rubber Development Skill Center, who has a job portal for any all graduates across the world. It is a central government body where not only me, but people like me, tire industry, everyone who is looking out for the candidates, they hire from them. Whether it is mixing mill, whether it is textile technician, as that there are a lot of companies, belting companies, belt companies, tire companies who and require textile graduates for their process also. So you can have a marketing aspect, you can have used in processing. General rubber industry will not use textile graduates for production because they don't have use of textile. But definitely tire industry, hose, belting, belts will use. And people like me who are connected like spinning companies, processing companies, who and weaving machines who are using rubber balls, yes, they can connect with us. Even the companies manufacturing textile machines are also looking out for textile graduates because, as Arunji said, that it is easier for a person who goes for marketing, who knows textile, to sell a product to another guy who knows textile very well, rather than a rubber guy going and selling my product. You know, because you understand, you speak the same language. Let me put that way. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Vijay, Dr. Vijay, just I have one point here. Yogenji, why we always talk about the placement? Why not you guide our student for a business? That is what my question. I mean,
he asked me
our student want to start a startup, you know. So
yeah, whatever question you have, just put to me. I will guide 100%. That is why I have given my interest, not only for placement, please. Any difficulty?
Yeah.
Sir, actually, if our group is providing some training for our student, that will be the best platform for to become an entrepreneur for such an industry. I think.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Basically, we can explore the possibility to extend the product and give them an internship to go with our people to market in the textile industry. We can explore that. Someone who is interested in the marketing, yes, we can definitely do that. Just send me the biodata of people who are interested. We'll try to place them. Okay.
Yeah. I would like to, sir, if you allow me to say a little word, I want to share one thing. I have observed that those who have an entrepreneurship approach or the skill or the attitude, how they develop in their career. At least half a dozen such students of mine, I tell you the products first. Jacquard wear and the sling.
Yeah.
He used to be selling that in certain point of time of life. Okay. In the beginning, as a textile graduate, he was working in the spinning industry. Later on, he thought weaving industry. And later on, he thought that, okay, these are the products which has a high consumption because by the time the bonus and other jackets came in. So whenever there is a maintenance required for the cords and, wares, then he used to get it from someone. After some time, the boy thought that, okay, if I sell those products as an agent, then how it will do? And he worked out within around, I think, 6 years of job, he accumulated some money and invested for trading that particular product. And he is now having a lot of stalls in various, trade fairs and others, and he's a wonderful businessman today. Great. So this is one product. It is applicable to each and everyone. See, for example, many people, those who are in the RMG sector, what they do after some time, they select a product in which he has a better, control for export. And the boy changed after 15 years of career in textiles. He changed as a person, as an exporter from India, because he knows the sources from where he has to collect the garments and where to sell. So entrepreneurship is something which should be there as an attitude in the person's mind. And what Dr. Shivankar has said, I truly believe that there should be some kind of training or a component within the syllabus where entrepreneurship development should be very carefully handled by the faculty members, those who are teaching those courses, with a lot of guest lectures from different walks of life. The financer, the person, those who are enterprising, examples from the previous, I mean, the ex-students or alumni. These kind of things will definitely imbibe at least 5 to 7% of the students or 10% of students' mind to be an entrepreneur after some time being in the career. And it is
to all of you for inviting me, and my email ID is there. I'm available for anytime anyone has any questions on the entrepreneurship, on the rubber industry, on the job. I am available there. So thank you very much to Arup ji, Piyush ji, Sujit, and Dr. Vijay. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Yogen ji, Arup ji, Sujit ji, Vijay ji. It's a really great session, interaction session. In fact, हमको बहुत short time मिला था. योगेन जी को मैंने Saturday phone किया कि we have to do this session, and he has given a very good technical know-how, and सब स्टूडेंटों को अच्छा ही लगा होगा, and I'm sure we will arrange such a session frequently so that our knowledge also will improve. It's not only the talking about the students. I think thank you, Arup ji.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
On behalf of SVKM's NMIMS Shirpur, I, Sujit Gullane, take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to respected Piyush Chandarana sir and Yogen Lathia sir. We are very thankful to both for accepting our invitation for technical discussion and sparing time with us. The interaction is really very informative and interesting to all our students. Definitely, they got benefited from the technical knowledge shared during the session. I hope we will receive similar support from our experts in future. Thank you. With this, we will stop here. Thank you very much all.